could go up or down from that point. This one has that cool pitch release.
This is a follow-up to a video that I did about 8 months ago.
Oh, I've never even got it to do this before.
I like
It's really...
it. Oh, that's interesting.
Where I documented my first introductions to the world of synthesizers. Since then, I have definitely learned a few more things, and I've experimented with a few more instruments as well. In particular, the Arturia MiniBrute 2, which is my first analog synthesizer, and if you haven't checked out the video where I'm playing my piece using that on my left hand and another keyboard on my right, definitely check it out. Let me first start off this update by sharing with you all some footage that I have from a visit that I made several months ago to the Yamaha Synth Space, where Nate showed me around the whole area full of all kinds of synthesizers, basically gave me a historical grand tour of all the synthesizers, or most of the synthesizers Yamaha has made since the very beginning.
This is the oldest one I have.
Okay.
It's called the SY2. Late 70s or late 70s
Late
synthesizers
70s, okay.
on the left. And then the next generation, the early 80s.
Whoa, no way.
You hear how the new pitch tones develop? And this is just from really fast modulation
Really fast one.
of the volume. Get those really, listen to those cool. This is one of my favorite
That's
things.
crazy. Not only was this very interesting, it was very helpful because I got a chance to ask Nate certain questions about synthesis that really clarified certain things that were still confusing to me. Super basic question,
Yeah.
fundamental, but the difference between analog and digital synthesis
Is analog uses the circuitry. There's no computers involved. There's no
Okay.
bits and bytes involved in sound generation.
within the
instrument.
Got
This
it.
is all wires and transistors and circuit boards.
Got
And
it.
not that there aren't circuit boards and wires in this, but it's
it's-
there's LSIs and there's chips and there's computer code inside of it that makes it go.
And in your opinion, how does that affect the sound?
It doesn't. It's just a
Doesn't.
different. It's just a
just
different
a different
way.
way.
It's
Got
a
it.
different. It's a different way.
Do you
But
prefer either or, personally? No.
I prefer to
Just
have
the
as
sound.
I prefer to have as many options as possible. Some people are really into analog because, like we've experienced with
Yeah.
this, it feels alive.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Because of all these things that are basically going wrong with it inside. It's super susceptible to temperature. Like we never turn it
Is it
off.
really?
Yeah. Yeah.
You never turn it off?
we never turn it off.
Why?
Because it takes a long time for the voice cards to sort of stabilize. Modern analog is much better.
Right.
They had made strides to make it work better. It's not as temperamental as this.
FM?
Frequency modulation synthesis. So the difference there is CS80 and analog synths, subtractive synthesizers. You start with something complex and you filter it. You change it, you bring it down, you subtract things from it. With FM, you have a relationship between two very simple waveforms. So this is one waveform. And this is like your violin player playing that one string. Then you bring in the modulation. And instead, kind of like the ring modulator, but instead of modulating the amplitude or volume, we're going to modulate the frequency of this sound with what we call operator. So from here, no modulation, to here, full modulation.
I see.
This is a classic sound. These bells, like this is something that subtractive synthesis doesn't do well. These really clear tones.
After this, we also recorded a very long talk about all kinds of things related to music making, my background, synthesizers for the Behind the Synth podcast. I'll link it in the description below. I also recorded a video version of it, which I'll make available to my patrons on Patreon. I'm learning to quiet a lot of these voices that, quite frankly, hold me back. And would hold anyone back that's trying to create something. Now I want to talk about when I first got my hands on the MiniBrute 2. My instinct was to figure out how to just get started playing it. Of course, because of my background, I focus on the performative aspect of things most of the time, so it was really important for me to just interact with the instrument as a player, and this took a little bit of tweaking and studying to figure out how to get started, but it was quite easy. After having some fun playing it, I started to experiment with different settings and also the patch bay. I think I have been opening up to a wider scale of sonic possibilities. Wider than, let's say, 6 months ago or even really recently. Just adds a little bit of almost like a halo over these notes. So I thought that was cool. If you compare that with it's a lot more interesting. I was curious about different sounds, but I was curious about them and looking for different sounds in relation to complementing the keyboard sounds that I was already using. It's a vague statement, but I'm basically a lot more open to just a wide variety of sounds, and this interests me and makes me a lot more curious. Here's a little excerpt of something that I put together with some of these new sounds that I've been playing around with. It's not much of anything yet, but I'll share it anyway. Periodically, I'll be making updates like this regarding synthesizers and also other genres that I've covered before as well. Of course, I don't forget about the genres once I make the videos, but it does take a while to actually put together a video. Now I'm going to quickly list off some channels that have been very helpful to me recently. Not all of them create exclusively synthesizer related content, but they are all great and I would definitely check them all out.
This is going to be sent out to anything connected by MIDI, and right now I got a little friend here connected through external MIDI. I'm going to increase that by a factor of 20.
What does an envelope do? Well, this one, this more complex one over here, has attack, decay, sustain, and release.
These pads, you can affect the overall sound with a bunch of different effects like filters and my favorite right here, which is a little art.
Yeah, an underrated analog synth. It has this kind of gritty analog tone.
You can hear how the pitch rises over time.
Now, our whole sound sounds like this. This is the all-encompassing how to get started with modular. Let's get into it.
That's it for now. I hope everyone is well, and I'll see you in the next video.